Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the fifth in our summer referee webinars. I'm Wayne Jackson, your the SDA. And this evening's session is going to be a continuation of what we've been doing on Monday nights. Okay, the rules of engagement again, just for everybody that hasn't been with us. Tonight's session, it will be recorded. We will have it available on our website probably sometime tomorrow. Again, everybody please mute your microphone to minimize background noise. Your videos, also cut the cameras off, please. And again, there will be more videos in Ray's presentation this evening, so that'll help with the clarity and bandwidth of those. Again, use the chat box. If you have questions, don't unmute yourself. And a couple of us will be monitoring the chat boxes, and if we have questions that we think are pertinent at that point, we'll interrupt it. If not, there should be some room at the end for questions and answers. I don't know if Ray has a poll or not in his presentation, but if he does, they will be anonymous polls. So please participate when asked. And then time permitting, we will be able to ask Ray a few questions at the end. And we will be doing a feedback survey as well, and to help us improve these webinars. Okay, again, tonight's presentation is going to be with Ray, reading the game in common sense. And again, on the homepage, you will see where the link is for viewing previous webinars. A little bit about Ray. I've known Ray, he's a personal friend of mine for about 20 years. I think this picture here shows Ray what he is. He's a man that's happy and passionate about what he's doing, and he's also very, he's approachable as an individual. Like I said, I've known Ray for about 20 years, and I consider him a friend. Ray's credentials are he's a current U.S. national coach. He's a former national AR. He's refereed at the U.S. national championships. He's an assessor. He's an instructor. He's also involved with WSOA. I think he's the current director of assessments. And he's also active in the high school, Pierce County, and a lot of other associations. And I think most of you have seen Ray on the soccer pitch for many, many years. What you may not know about Ray, and a kind of a fun fact, is he raises chickens. And this is kind of a fun photo we took when we were at a restaurant. There was a lady doing balloons, and we asked her to do something for Ray, and she made him a chicken out of a balloon. So anyway, I think you're in for a good presentation tonight with Ray about reading the game and common sense. So Ray, I'm going to quit sharing my screen and turn the program over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me well. I hope everyone out there is doing well under the certain conditions of the world. Hopefully, the information that I plan on sharing with you tonight will be beneficial. When I was given the opportunity to share with everyone about reading the game and how to present that, and then I looked back on something that I had already put together, and I think some of you on this webinar tonight may have seen that if you were at the boys championship. But I have something called Soccer is Life and Life is Soccer. And then as this opportunity came to me, I looked at it in terms of how do I perceive the game and how do I achieve common sense based on the title of tonight's subject. And to me, they kind of blended together. So hopefully I can share with you how I perceive the game and how I achieve the game by thinking about soccer is life and life is soccer. What is my favorite word as a soccer referee? And for me, that word is balance. I'm a firm believer that we must achieve balance in our game to have success. If we're able to achieve that balance, we can do so by reading the game properly and using common sense. And if you do those two things, you achieve the balance in your game, no matter which level. Now, again, I know there's probably people on the webinar that will maybe have just started. Some of those on the webinar may be highly experienced. But as someone who's been watching the game at different levels for the last 5 or 6 years, the games have a lot in common. They all have 22 players. They all have a referee crew, and they all are achieving the same thing. Can we get through this game without killing each other? Can we get through this game without people tearing us down? And again, one of the goals of a referee is one of my coaching buddies, not a soccer referee coaching buddy, but an actual soccer coaching buddy. He says the best referee is one you don't notice. And I think that referee is the one who achieves balance. So then the question becomes, how do we achieve that balance? I think we achieve balance by allowing the game to flow. We've all heard that phrase, the beautiful game. And that is so true. Our game is beautiful. It's the most beautiful game in the world. And if we allow the game to flow with minimal interruptions, that's what makes it beautiful. Mohammed has clearly ingrained in a lot of us the happy zones. So I'll talk about the happy zone, and then I'm gonna take it one step further, maybe 2 steps further. And then I'm gonna talk about that. My favorite question of today is, we cannot confuse advantage and possession. If we're able to achieve these 3 objectives, we will have the balance, and you will achieve these objectives by reading the game properly and using common sense. So first, we're going to talk about game flow. And how do we achieve the game flow? How do we achieve it? Sometimes people talk about, do we just let the game go? Just let it play on. Let them do what they want to do, and then regain the game by reining it back in. Do we let them play by doing that? Is that really a wise thing to do? I think at the highest levels, we can try to do that. But most of us don't referee at the highest levels. Therefore, that's a big, giant risk to take in any of our games. Do we call more fouls? I kind of lead into that category. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm saying that you need to call a foul, every 10 seconds or every time someone looks at each other the wrong way. But I'm saying that if you read the game properly and you use common sense, and think about this one question: does your game need to be stopped? And understanding who's playing, and let that be the basic decision, it makes all of our jobs easier. It makes your job easier as a referee. It makes a job easier for the players because they know what to expect from you as a referee. It makes a job easier for the assistant referees who work with you, as long as we're trying to achieve the same game. We're trying to read the game and then use common sense. The happy zones of the field. I know I'm kind of, this is repeating an old story, but sometimes you repeat until it becomes second nature. Do you know where the happy zones are in the field? Or in this case, where the happy zone is. And there it is, right in front of you. Mohammed has given this to us a couple years ago, and he was so true. when he mentioned that roughly 70 to 75% of all whistles that are blown in the game, in any game, and I mean at any level. I've been fortunate enough to do some USL games a couple years ago. That's a whole different subject now. I digress. And even down to working, assessing matches at the state cup level here, or even doing local games in Pierce County. Whenever I chart a game, when I get done, if I just draw a line on the page, and I always have I have two sheets. I have a sheet with the running time, and I mark the game, and then I kind of mark down on a map like this, a field map, exactly where the events took place. And Mohammed is true. 75% of all contact, all whistles are blown in this yellow area. And if we choose to blow the whistles there when necessary, when you don't need to take a risk, and I'll say that one again, when you do not need to take a risk, that's where you can dictate the flow of the game by reading what the game is needed at that given time. You're using your common sense to stop the game in a neutral portion of the field to allow the game to be reset so you can now flow with the game and get it started back in the right direction. Now, this is where I'm going to take it one step further. I'll call it Happy Zone 2.0. Now we're looking at the new red bar on the page right there. And when you see that red bar, that identifies the technical area. And this is where a piece of reading the game comes into play, and also using common sense. As I watch games, I often find it ironic when you have a lot of contact near the touch line, and how some referees, I don't know if, it's kind of hard to explain, if they're trying to prove something to somebody that they can allow contact, that they can control the game by letting the play get to a certain level of tension so they can bring it back in. But I'll be the first one to tell you, bad things happen in the technical area. And if you think about it, look at it this way. If there's going to be a foul in the technical area, I'm more likely to foul an opponent in front of my own bench, because I have confidence that if I do something really bad and the guy who's the victim of my foul wants to get up and potentially retaliate, I have plenty of help behind me, right there in front of me. People to protect me, to watch my back, so to speak. So just be aware of the matchups. Be aware of who is the aggressive player in front of what bench. As I move my cursor right here, if this is the white team and you have a black player and a white player, and I mean the colors of their jersey, he's more likely to foul the player in front of his own bench. He's not going to foul him real hard in front of the opponent's bench because, again, he has protection. To me, that's where common sense comes into play. Now, a lot of people won't, I'm not afraid to say it, whenever you have, lack of a better term, that 50-50 ball to where they both kick it and it goes out of bounds, you have to be smart and use some common sense. Give the ball to the team if they're in front of their bench. I have no problem saying that. You're probably going to win some friends later on, not develop too many enemies as you work your games when you make simple common sense decisions like that. Or else if the score is 10-0 and you have a 50-50 ball and it goes out of bounds, you give it to the zero. I mean, that's just, again, using your common sense, okay? Now I'm going to take this one step further. And I'm going to address these areas in red close to the corners of the field. Now, I know hopefully everyone understands what I'm about to talk about. We all know that when we were young, our parents always told us that nothing good happens after midnight. I'll be the first one to tell you that nothing happens good in the last 2 minutes of the game. That's a 1-goal game when someone is taking the ball to the corner of the field. And the funny thing is that when you watch games, there are even times to where the referee, even a high-level game, it's like they forget. You're taking the ball to the corner, which means what? The team that's chasing the ball is usually frustrated. They're mad that they're going to the corner, and usually when they get there, they're going to kick the you-know-what out of someone in the corner of the field. So my idea is, when you see the ball going there, why not go right away? You know what's about to happen, but yet we will hang out in the middle of the field as the ball goes to the corner, and then once the guy chases them down, then all of a sudden we have to make a 50-yard sprint just to get there because someone is about to kick someone in the Achilles, or make a weird slide tackle, or come in with a 2-hand shove to the back. And so from this point forward, I know that when I see it coming, if I'm the person with the pen in my hand, pen and paper, I'm already giving a negative mark if you're not moving right there early in the sequence, because we know what's going to happen. And then as you see on the diagram, you can imagine that the red area in the bottom right-hand corner of the page and the red area in the upper left-hand portion of the page are the areas of true concern, because they are opposite the assistant referee. So therefore, that puts the referee in an island all by themselves. So as soon as you see a player with the 1-goal lead starts going to just get there. In fact, just go there and wait for them. You know what's going to happen. You should never have to chase them down. Just get there ASAP and let them know, I know you're going to foul this person. Please don't foul them very hard, so I can just blow the whistle and we can move on with the rest of our game. So for me, this is Happy Zones 2.0, because we know what's going to happen in the middle of the field, but now we have to be well aware of what's going to happen near the touch line and in the 4 corners of the field as we get to the end of each contest. Now I'm going to talk about advantage versus possession. Let me repeat that. Advantage versus possession. Do we know the difference? Do we really know the difference between advantage and possession? I think this is one of the areas where we take some unnecessary risks. And I think that sometimes we're a victim of watching too much TV, because the people that we see on TV who do this, they have the ability to make those decisions. I think we have the ability to make those decisions as well. I think sometimes we just don't pick the right moments to make the decisions. And so hopefully I'm going to give you an idea of how to make this decision easier for yourself, just by looking at where you're at on the field and the direction that the ball is going at the point that a foul takes place. So you can see on the right-hand portion of the screen, you have the red area inside the goal area there for us. So obviously that's the area. If we have players, we would be attacking that end of the field. Now the blue arrows in the middle of the field indicate contact, fouls, potential advantage situations. Now keep in mind, we're attacking the red goal area. And so, do we want to take a risk if I'm attacking the red goal area and I'm moving laterally across the field in a true lateral movement, I should say. Now, unless the foul occurs and it goes to a player on the victim's team that just has this wide open space with no one close to them, you see what I'm getting at? The player, if they fight through a foul, or the ball's going to go to a teammate who's completely unmarked and has maybe 10 or 15 yards to go, that's when you want to apply advantage. Otherwise, it's just possession. And think about this. Is it more to the team's advantage to maintain the ball in active play, or to catch their breath and just start back off with a free kick? Is it to their advantage to maintain possession or start with a free kick? And this is where common sense comes into the play, and also reading the game. So one cannot just blow their whistle and move on, and blow their whistle and move on and blow their whistle. One must remember, if and when I do blow my whistle, how is the team taking the restart? Are they one of those teams that like to dump the ball into the penalty area because they're dangerous heading the ball towards the goal? Are they a team that every time they get fouled automatically plays backwards? Are they always playing the ball to a player who's going to streak down the sideline, either down the left flank or the right flank? What does the team do? Reading the game will allow you to make your decision if you want to take a risk when the team is either going in a lateral movement from one touchline to the other, or in some cases, playing negative. And again, if I'm attacking the red and I have my back to the goal I'm attacking, now if I'm going to play the ball backwards to another line of players on my team, and as a referee, I can see that player looking up because another player is streaking down the field elsewhere, and you can say, oh, there's another pass coming. Again, if you can read the game, then you'll be able to see if you have the ability to take a risk at that moment. So again, I ask you, do we know the difference between possession and advantage? I'm a firm believer that when it's truly advantage, I mean, we're all gonna know. The tough one is when you're trying to apply advantage and then you quickly blow the whistle. But you know, after 2 or 3 times of that, you've already shown that maybe we don't understand the difference between the two. And I'm raising my hand. I was there. I used to always try to play advantage and probably applied it too much when all I needed to do was just call a foul. So I'm not just saying this because I think I see it all the time. I'm saying it because I used to do it all the time. It's like I'm an advantageaholic, trying to get it too much. And so the key thing is trying to rein yourself in and understand, what does your game need? Now, granted, if that player, the one player that we're talking about, is head and shoulders better than every other player on the field, you might be able to take a risk with that one player. And usually each team has a player like that. But again, you have to identify that player by reading the game. Oh, I have a special player. I have to treat him slightly different than everybody else. That's truly reading the game. So now we'll play a little video here so we can show some examples of what I'm talking about. We all know that the video will be kind of choppy, but just keep an eye out in the middle of the field here of the fact that you're going to have a foul, and the fact that, you know, we're just going to let them play. Now, for me, it's like, okay, the guy got fouled and everyone's seeing it, and it was like they were all waiting for a whistle and didn't get it, and we keep going. And so again, we're in the middle of the park, nothing there. Just, to me, it would be simple just to call the foul. We'll move on to the next video here. Now in this video here, in the middle of the park, we'll see how this referee deals with a similar situation. We'll play this one more time. The player's truly being fouled. And then when he makes a pass, the referee is good enough to see that even within that next pass, well, I want to play advantage, and then he realizes, wait a second, maybe that's not a wise decision. And in this case here, it's more to the team's advantage to just stop playing and allow them to take that free kick. So now we're going to talk advantage. And again, we see the red area, the red markings in the goal area. And now let's look at our arrows. We have our red arrows, the yellow ones, and the green. And so obviously you understand my color coding. The further away from the attacking area, we need to be more cautious with how we apply advantage. Is it really advantage when you get fouled just outside of your defending penalty area and you still have what? That's what, 80 plus yards to go until we can attack? And lots of times, you know, you'll blow the whistle and you'll hear, well, let them play. And then, but a good referee will read the numbers. We have one player and maybe you might have a teammate, but then there's 2 or 3 other defending players in front of them. So your decision comes from the numbers. Will the numbers allow you to apply advantage here? Now again, when you read the game and take into account who is the player with the ball. Now, if this is that player who earlier in the game was able to dribble through 9 of his opponents, that might be the one player that you could apply advantage for if he or she has the ball. Otherwise, if there's a foul that far away from goal, then it better be like, you know, when Moses parted the Red Sea and he has a lane in which to travel unimpeded, then you can apply advantage. When we step another line forward to the yellow arrows, now again, you're looking at the situation, again, who's the player getting fouled? What has their experience been against that defender, the next defender coming up against them? How much space is there? Does this player have an opportunity to continue a promising attack? Has the attack truly been stopped? These are the things you're reading into the game that should allow you to make the decision. Don't just think, whack, he got fouled, but he didn't go down and he's still going. Well, we could play advantage. Well, if he takes one dribble and there's another defender right there in his face, where was the advantage? Was it really there? And that's what I was asking. Was that advantage really there? So now we move up to the green arrows, a more advantageous area in which to apply advantage. Someone might get fouled, might get bumped off the ball, and can maintain their balance in one step and boom, take a quality shot. So now that's also part of your thought process now. How are you reading this game? The skill level of the person who's being fouled. the skill level and the speed of the other defenders in the area who might be able to catch up and prevent a promising scoring attack at that portion of the field. So now you have 3 stages of advantage. You have a long ways away where we probably should call a foul. In a middle portion of the field to where, okay, I could really consider giving advantage here if it's truly there. And then in the green area to where, okay, I can give advantage because all it's going to take is one dribble away from the contact and a good heavy shot. And again, depending on who the victim of the foul was at that moment in the game. Because again, as I always tell people, if I was playing, so if Ray was playing and Ray got fouled, it wouldn't matter in which of these 3 lines that I would get fouled in. I would want the referee to call a foul for me. I would want to foul every time because as a player, I was horrible. There's a reason why I ended up being a referee. Couldn't play a lick. That was decent, but you know what I mean. I was one of those players who was always looking for help from the referee. Just please call a foul. I want them to call a foul even before the ball got to me. That's the player that I was. So understand the players. Sometimes you could see it in their eyes. The players who want you to call fouls and the players who want you to just let them go. Just let them play. And then don't be afraid to ask a question. If you have a foul in any one of these areas of the field, whether you blow the whistle or you choose to apply advantage, I think a smart referee will find that player at the next dead ball and reflect back. You remember 2 minutes ago when you kind of got bumped right there and I called a foul? Did you really want me to call that foul or did you want me to let you play? Or a player where you had advantage and nothing really materialized, but it was kind of, ask them, you know what, the next time, would you want me to call a foul instead? The players will tell you what they want from you. And again, if if there's never any conflict with that player again, it's no big deal. But why not establish that rapport, establish that relationship, because they know that you're looking out for their best interest because you're willing to ask the question. So now we'll look at a couple more videos to give you an example of what we're talking about. We'll go back here, look at this one more time. So there you have your foul right there. And then you see the ball bouncing right to this other player in this area here who has all this space. And you can see how the referee is just waiting for the ball to get there before he acknowledges that we're going to have advantage. And then the advantage develops and we're off to the races. And then as that video concluded, again, because the foul was such that it was warranted to come back and give a yellow card. Sorry about that, phone in the background's ringing. He was able to go back and give a yellow card to the player who committed the foul. We'll take another peek at another video here. Again, as we look back at this video. The whole point I'm trying to get at is when the guy went in with the two-footed tackle, he waited. The ball runs to the other teammate who's right there, and he's able to apply advantage at that moment. You see the tackle coming in right here. And then the players run onto it, and they're able to move forward. So the key thing is understanding advantage versus possession. And then as we wind down to the end here, I ask these questions: how to achieve common sense without using our whistle? Because a lot of what we do is with the whistle, but there's so much that you can do without the whistle in the course of any game. Always understand who is playing and what is at stake. For example, and we all understand, we'll call it the Seattle-Portland rivalry at the highest level. The funny thing is that rivalry extends at every level. And I can remember in a recent game to where we were watching, I can't remember if it was PDL, USL, or it could have been the Academy League. But I believe the referee wasn't from up here. And so they didn't understand the rivalry. And so that referee had a difficult time because he didn't understand who was playing and what was at stake. And sometimes knowing that goes a long way. Be consistent with your decisions. You can't, if on a scale of 1 to 10, contact, when there's a contact at level 7, and I'm just giving you a random number, on the west end of the field, and you have the same contact on the east end of the field, you cannot blow the whistle the first time and not blow the whistle for the exact same level of contact on the second contact. You have to blow them both. You have to have balance in how you observe fouls. You have to have balance on how you deal with players. You have to have balance with how you deal with coaches. And that's just common sense. That's all it is. Be on the same page as your crew. That means you need to communicate well with them before the game, during active play in the first half. Communicate with your crew during the intermission, and continue that communication on to the second half. It's important that there's some unison out there when you referee a game. You don't want to be in a situation, again, I give you my number scale. Well, if I'm letting contact go at, we'll say, level 7, but yet the AR is waggling his or her flag on a level 3 contact, you see how there's a lack of balance there? It's like we're not seeing the exact same game. And there needs to be some cohesion there. As I said earlier, communicate with players and also communicate with coaches. Be respectful, ask questions, answer questions. Always understand that just because someone is loud, they may not be yelling at you. They just may have their volume may be high that game. Well, their volume is always high, but listen to what's being said to you. Sometimes it is just a question and they're not angry at you. Sometimes they just want to know. And if it's something that's very simple, a simple yes or no will do, then do that. It goes a long way. Also, there may be someone on the webinar listening in who always said, please and thank you go a long way. Don't be afraid to use them. Please and thank you go a long way. As Mohammed would say, do not lose track of the temperature of the game. When the game is, if the game is calm, you need to be calm. When the temperature rises, you need to rise to the level of the temperature of the game. That doesn't mean referee angry, but be in a position to calm the game back down. To calm the game back down. And that's how you read the game. You read all these different components of the game, and then you use your common sense to keep the game as even keel as possible. Wayne, if you're still there, if there's any questions.
Actually, the chat was pretty quiet tonight.
But did we have our guests from?
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot of questions that we got here.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Can I add something here or to your?
Please, Mohammed.
First of all, it was a great topic. It was wonderful. Good information, good material regarding to the game management, player management. I appreciate that. Adding to a few comments regarding to the number of the calls that was made in the happy face area. I measured 48 game, which came up with, I recorded fouls that happened in 48 games with 877 calls. 91% of them were in happy face. So it was very high. 9% of them was in the penalty area or around the penalty area. And another comment, if I may make, regarding to the your title that soccer is life, life is soccer.
Yes, sir.
This is true statement in fact in regard to what soccer bring to us as a referee. Okay, experience of refereeing and officiating, what can bring to us. In a study that I did, it's part of my PhD program, which title was a stressor and coping strategy of the referees. A question I asked the referees, who some of the participants that are here attending in the study, probably, ask them, has refereeing helped you to develop leadership skill? And going back again, life is soccer, soccer is life. And over 90% said yes, it has. And I asked them why, what, how did it help you? And they listed a list of skills that they have learned through the refereeing: communication, listening skill, developing relationship, empathy, humanity, influencing, integrity, dealing with difficult people, handling confrontation, handling diverse group, handling mass number of the players, and conflict resolution, assertiveness, decisiveness, and so on. Keep composure, body language, patience, presence. So all of these were the skill that the participant in the study, they said we learned. Again, going back to what you say, life is, soccer is life, life is soccer. One of the participants, I never forget, he's in my study, he says, refereeing is macrocosm of life. So well said, soccer is life, life is soccer. Thank you. I think I talked too much.
No, thank you. It's funny, the title came to me, I don't know, about maybe two and a half years ago. Sometimes when you're just sitting there and these things pop up, and then you just realize that how the game is the same. You guys don't realize how much soccer has helped me at work, in my other job, because this is my real job, loving soccer. But and how they just connect with one another. And then I do mention I do a thing called Outward Mindset for the Department of Health, and it's how being a referee makes it so that where I don't have the usual troubles that in my everyday job that other people have, because I have these referee skills. And then I bring those skills to my referee job. And that's how I finally understood that they intertwine with one another. And then again, you know, I mentioned one time to a referee who I thought was struggling. And I do have a true belief that when you're those of us referees who are parents, because technically we're refereeing teams at home. When you have two children, you have that's two teams of individuals, but you're refereeing them. And so to really get me to help a young man understand how he needed to take the next step, I say, you're not a parent, but I asked him, did he babysit? Had he ever babysat, you go to the family function, Thanksgiving, or the family picnic, you know how like the teenagers in charge of little kids? You were being a referee back then and didn't even know it. Didn't even know it. And you were developing referee skills way back when. So.
Hey, Ray, there is one more question that kind of came through tonight on the chat. It has to do with the timing of giving an advantage. In other words, if a team is ahead, let's say 5-0 or even 1-0, and it's the last 3 minutes of the game, does that team want the advantage or do they want the foul? Is kind of the question.
So it's a good question. I think that the game would dictate, again, now we're talking about the type of foul. I get what they're saying, because sometimes if I can fight through the foul and maintain possession, that's probably one of the times late in the game you may kind of back off of what my philosophy of that, of just calling the fouls. But if the foul is such where you have to call a foul, you must. I think if there's wiggle room, if it's one of those touchy fouls where you can just bounce off of it and keep maintaining their possession, that's fine. Especially if they're going forward, you're more likely to do so. But man, that's taking a risk when you're going in the wrong direction and someone is coming up from behind. So I would say, depending on the type of foul, that would be the basis of the decision one should make. Because if they're going after the feet or the ankles in a very negative way, then one must blow the whistle. Because you know what? If a guy's going to foul like that, then, maybe there won't be that much added time left in the game. If there's 3 minutes of added time, maybe there's 250 or 245. Now it's going to be that crazy. I don't want to be out there with some bad things happening.
Okay, I think you did a great job, Ray. Thank you very much. Everyone, next week, we're going to have Katja back. She's going to do a little different spin on positioning, but she's on doing positioning in dynamic play and, reading the game from that standpoint. So you're reading the game and wanting to move to where you need to be to make the decision. So thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Ray, thank you. Awesome job. And and everybody to kind of go ahead and click out. We sure would appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.